very much, Matt, and I really want to see if we can start this section of the meeting by having the biggest cheer imaginable in Conway Hall, of course for Jeremy Corbyn, but also for the person who's done more than any other, although it's been a collective effort, to put on this fantastic weekend of discussion of Labour's left ideas. So let's have a big round of applause and cheer for Matthew Wilgress. Excellent. When we get the video clip, we can cut out what I said and pretend the clap was for me. So that's But Matt does a fantastic job. It's a collective effort, and he really is a collectivist in the best and truest sense of that in the Labour movement. I want to talk really today about what is at stake. I think it's very important that we realise what's at stake. What is our movement trying to achieve? What we can achieve as a movement together is the most anti-racist, most socialist, most internationalist, most progressive and transformative Prime Minister in this country's history. So just think about that for a moment, because it's easy to forget it, isn't it, when you're just thinking about the next leafleting session, the next sassy tweets, the next letter to The Guardian, and all of these things. It's easy to forget the bigger picture. So when I say, and I know it's an obvious point, the most anti-racist, most socialist, most internationalist Prime Minister Jeremy Corbyn in our history, that means in our history, 250 years of the Labour and socialist movement in this country. That's what's at stake. And what's also at stake is realised by the establishment. Because even if we sometimes forget what's within our grasp, the establishment never forgets what's in our grasp. And that is why they'll throw everything at us and everything at Jeremy and everything at you in an attempt to stop you. Just imagine, later this year, after a general election, that Jeremy and the Labour team and all of you wins. The United Nations, Jeremy sat there opposite Donald Trump, hopefully to be replaced by Bernie Sanders in due course. But Jeremy sat opposite Donald Trump as the Prime Minister of one of the 5 countries with a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. Donald Trump is making the case for bombing, invading and occupying Iran, and Jeremy Corbyn says, no, enough is enough. Of a country with a veto and all the political weight that brings at the United Nations Security Council. So just imagine that, because I can tell you, you can bet your bottom dollar that those powerful people around Trump and himself in the United States, they're very aware of that possibility. And of course we've heard the recording, haven't we, of Pompeo saying how things should be maybe done to stop Jeremy becoming Prime Minister in the first place. Imagine, yeah, they can try. Imagine another situation with Jeremy as Prime Minister. Another, God forbid, banking crisis occurs. Which side will the Prime Minister take in that banking crisis? We'll have a Prime Minister that won't put the burden of that financial crisis on the backs of the many, but put the burden of that on the privileged few who have caused that crisis. So both internationally and domestically, this is what is at stake, and we shouldn't forget it. We shouldn't forget it at any point. We're going to get, as the title of this rally says, a government for the many, not the few. That means a government of and for the interests of the 99%, because if we don't understand what the many is, then we're never going to be able to represent their interests, fight alongside them, govern for them, get a government with them, and defend and have that government. If we don't understand what the many is, we're not going to be able to achieve all that. So let me make it clear. The working class in this country is the 99%. The working class isn't the 20%. By the working class, we mean the vast majority who create the wealth in our society, who keep our public services running, and if they don't or can't work, have to, quite rightly, receive social security from the state. That's the working class. It's the majority in our society. And the thing that makes the working class so potentially powerful is that it has that transformative potential as a majority in society to lead the way with a fundamental and irreversible shift in wealth, power and control in favour of the 99%. The working class isn't just people who work in factories. The working class isn't just people who are white. The working class is a diverse majority in our society, and we should never forget that, because if we do, then for the many, not the few, can never be put into practice. We're facing the prospect of Trumpism in the UK. It seems likely that Boris Johnson will become the unelected Prime Minister. But even if he doesn't, what a choice we're faced with. Or rather, what a choice that the Conservative Party members have in their hands. The choice between a man who broke our National Health Service and the man who wants to sell it to Donald Trump. Whoever wins that election, we must push a transformative socialist agenda in order to defeat them, because the truth is that Trumpism here in the UK and in the United States of America and around the world can't be defeated by centrism. It can only be defeated by a radical socialist manifesto. So we face an environmental crisis where free market fundamentalism and free market capitalism has pushed so many species into extinction, into the threat of extinction, and has brought our globe to the brink of climate catastrophe. We face an economic crisis. We face a social crisis. Just read what the United Nations Special Rapporteur said about poverty in this country, about the way disabled people are being treated in this country. But let's make it clear when we consider these multiple crises. As Tony Benn said, and he was correct then as he is now, the crisis we inherit when we come to power will be the occasion for fundamental change and not the excuse for postponing it. It was once said that the choice is between socialism or barbarism. To maybe update it, I think now here in the UK and around the world, and you look at Brazil as well and Bolsonaro and various other right-wing developments, the choice is between socialism or Trumpism. That's the choice. And the reality is we're going to be more radical, more socialist, more transformative, more redistributive, more anti-racist, more internationalist, because it's the right thing to do, but also because it will see us to win that general election. And on that note, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce... Well, if we can get a general election... general election before the Tories finish their ballots, then that may be the case, but we may have to be satisfied with Jeremy being the next Prime Minister but one. But that could be in a matter of weeks. It could be in a matter of weeks. But I say this proudly. The person I'm going to introduce is the most anti-racist leader in the Labour Party's history. He's the most internationalist leader in the Labour Party's history. And has suffered more unfair attacks on him than any other leader in the Labour Party's history. But you know what? In life and in politics, you can judge people not just by their friends, but by their enemies too. And I'm proud that Rupert Murdoch, the Sun newspaper, Boris Johnson, Pompeo, and the rest of them are deeply, deeply uncomfortable with the prospect of Jeremy Corbyn becoming Prime Minister. And so they should be. So let's give maybe an even bigger cheer than we gave to Matt Wilgress. You'll get a bigger one next year, Matt, don't worry. We'll try and wind up the crowd to give Matt the big cheer he deserves. Give a huge round of applause to somebody who, along with Dan Abbott and John McDonnell, kept the flame of socialism, the flame of Bennism, alight in the Labour Party in those difficult decades. So that when the time came, the movement can be together with a real prospect of getting into power. Raise the roof for Jeremy Corbyn! Yeah!